Hold up, Moctezuma's headdress is where? This headdress of the famous Aztec emperor is in Mexico City. It's pretty stunning. And here's the original, at Austria's Weltmuseum in Vienna. Wait, what? This one, the one housed at Mexico City's National Museum of Anthropology, i.e. the one in Mexico, isn't the real headdress? Also, Aztec isn't a real word. Check out that video next. If the Mexica Emperor's original headdress still exists, then why isn't it in Mexico? Well, in the mid-19th century, Mexico had an Austrian emperor. Yes, you heard that right. Mexico had an Austrian emperor. So you'd think maybe he took it. But no, it looks like I'll have to make that video next because it turns out the story goes way further back than that. By the time the Austrian Habsburg Emperor of Mexico, Maximilian, was executed by Benito Juarez, the headdress had already been in Austria for 300 years, which itself is a whole long and incredibly complex story for yet another video. But in a nutshell, when Hernando Cortés, whose name historians changed to Hernán just because centuries later Hernán became a more popular form of Hernando? Seriously, what the heck? They changed his name just because Hernando isn't a common name anymore. Imagine if we started calling Julius Caesar Julian Caesar just because Julius isn't a common name anymore. We actually do this all the time, so I guess it isn't that unusual, but it's still just so weird to me. Anyway, when Cortés invaded Mexico in the early 16th century, he somehow ended up in possession of Moctezuma's headdress. Some say it was a gift, some say he stole it. Let's just say that given that whole history, whether it was a gift or not, at the end of the day, he stole it. Anyway, Cortés gifted the headdress to his king, Carlos I of Spain. Well, it turns out that Carlos, king of Spain in the early to mid-16th century, was not actually named Carlos. At least not until he went to Spain for the first time when he was 16. No, it turns out Carlos was actually Karl V von Habsburg, of the Austrian Habsburgs, the most powerful family in the history of Europe, and possibly the world. By the end of the 16th century, the headdress was off in an Austrian palace somewhere in Tyrol. When Vienna opened its Weltmuseum in the 19th century, it wasn't called that then, they were looking for historical artifacts to fill it with. So they were stoked to find one of the most famous pieces of headgear in human history just sitting in one of their palaces. Mexico has since asked for the headdress back multiple times, including as recently as 2020, but apparently experts have deemed the piece of history too fragile to be transported. And so Austria has repeatedly declined Mexico's request to have their prized artifact restored. But hey, if you're Mexican, you get to see it for free in Austria. So wait, what about that Austrian emperor that Mexico executed in 1867? Check out the channel for that video next.